Hello and welcome to our discussion on Making Jobs Matter. North Carolinians need family sustaining wages. This bite-sized webinar is the first in a series of 20-minute webinars that My Future NC is hosting in the coming weeks. I'm Corey Biggs, Director of Policy and Advocacy at My Future NC, and I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. We hope that this quick, focused webinar is an engaging and educational way to spend part of your lunch break. The data source for today is My Future NC's 2024 attainment profiles, which you can access by scanning the QR code on your screen, or you can go to our website and look at profiles for the state of North Carolina and for all 100 counties. We also have new supplemental profiles, and these are a rich assortment of important information that we hope each of you will find useful as you think about educational attainment in your community. Today, we're focusing specifically on family sustaining wage, which is a data point displayed on each of our attainment profiles. A family sustaining wage, sometimes referred to as a living wage, is defined as enough earnings to cover necessary expenses in a given geographic area, such as food, medical care, child care, housing, and transportation, without having to rely on financial assistance from other sources. Typically, this is equivalent to 300% or more of the federal poverty line. Using the latest available data, 2 working adults with 1 child living in North Carolina would need to earn roughly $20 per hour for an annual income of $85,416 to meet the living wage threshold. This is the state average only. Each county's wage threshold may differ. For decades now, educational attainment has been linked to higher wages, yet just 54% of North Carolinians ages 25 to 44 earned a family sustaining wage in 2022, which is 12% shy of our state's 2030 goal of having 66% of these North Carolinians earning family sustaining wages. Reaching that goal would mean an additional 300,000 plus North Carolinians benefiting from increased availability of high-quality jobs, and their families knowing that they'll have the economic resources they need to weather day-to-day struggles. Now, having provided the little background on the issue, I'd like to turn to our special guests, beginning with Dr. Annie Izod from the North Carolina Department of Commerce, to frame the issue in the commerce way and then to share some of what the state is doing to improve this data point. Dr. Izod, could you please introduce yourself and then for about the next 5 minutes, share with us some of your insights?
Thank you. And thank you everyone for joining us today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the Executive Director of the NC Works Commission, which is our state workforce development board. As Corey mentioned, we're housed in the Department of Commerce, and we work closely with our local workforce development boards, the Commerce's Division of Workforce Solutions, and our many education and training providers across the state to support employers in finding the talent that they need. Over the past 7 years, we've been guided by Governor Cooper's mission to create a North Carolina where people are better educated, where they're healthier, where they have more money in their pockets, and where they have the opportunity to live a more abundant and purposeful life. And in addition, Commerce's First in Talent Plan outlines new strategies to enable more North Carolinians to enter the workforce, to help businesses recruit and retain talent, and also to build communities with infrastructure needed to foster that economic growth across the state. And when we talk about family sustaining wages, we know that they're a key part of achieving this goal. Since its start in 2021, the NC Workforce Credentials Advisory Council has been reviewing and updating the credentials list and working to share the importance and relevance of these credentials. In 2022, the council published a list of more than 130 non-degree industry-valued credentials to help students and employees prepare for in-demand and frontline careers that are essential to North Carolina's future. The NC Workforce Credentials are those high-demand, non-degree credentials that can help folks upskill into higher-paying jobs or gain those necessary skills to get into a job that's going to allow them for that future career growth. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about another important effort to create jobs that pay family-sustaining wages And that's through Commerce's Job Development Investment Grant Program, or we like to call JDIG, because we like to create acronyms out of everything. So companies that receive these JDIG awards commit to creating full-time jobs with benefits. And the projected wages of these jobs compared to the national average is one of the factors in the formula that's used to determine the company's incentive package to come to North Carolina. So since we don't usually incentive low-wage projects, these jobs typically pay a family-sustaining wage. In several recent awards, the average wage for the jobs created well exceeded the national average. One project that comes to mind is the Toyota battery manufacturing project, and that's a good example of bringing really good family-sustaining wages to North Carolina that are actually also going to need to benefit from our workforce credentials list to make sure that the folks are going to get those earned credentials to get those really good jobs. And now I'm going to kick it over to my colleague, Dr. Lisa Chapman.
Thank you, Annie. So next, I want to turn to Dr. Lisa Chapman from Central Carolina Community College to share some of what she and her colleagues are doing to help improve economic outcomes for students who come to community college for training, a credential, or a degree, which are efforts that are all of particular importance to places like Dr. Chapman's institution service area, because just 46% of rural metropolitan county residents and just 40% of non-metro rural county residents earn family-sustaining wages. And in a part of North Carolina that has seen some big job announcements, like Annie just mentioned, and which has started to see an influx of residents of broad and diverse backgrounds, but which is still predominantly rural in makeup, Central Carolina Community College is at the center of so much. So Dr. Chapman, could you please introduce yourself and for the next 5 minutes or so, provide us with some good news?
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Corey. I appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about what we're doing. And as indicated, I had the distinct pleasure of serving as the president of Central Carolina Community College. So I'll say what our service area is, but in today's world, we work regionally, which is across service areas. But if you ask me what counties we typically serve, I would say Chatham, Harnett, and Lee. So that gives you an idea of where we're sitting in that nexus of activity that Dr. Izod's team keeps bringing to us. And I would say one of the primary things we do is work with Commerce to ensure that when they're reaching out and EDPNC, right, all of the economic development ecosystem, when they're reaching out to bring these great employers, our responsibility is to help those employers see this as a place for them to be. And so, we have to identify the skill and talent needed by the employer, provide the career pathways, and then we want to engage the talent in skill development and then facilitate the communication between the talent and the employer. So that's big picture what we do. Now, how does family sustaining wages fit in that? And what does that mean to our community? Community colleges are critical to economic mobility within our communities. And you heard Corey talk about a little bit about the demographics of this region and the wages of this region. And then you also, Dr. Izod mentioned Toyota. I will tell you, there was an announcement just in March, Kiowa Kirwan North America, which is a specialty pharmaceutical company that is coming to Lee County, bringing over 100 jobs, and the average wage is $91,000. And that would be a mic drop, I think, right there. A lot of folks work to make that happen. Now, what we want to make sure is that our local residents have an opportunity to participate in that economic success, not have it happen to them. And we need them, right? We talked about how many credentials we need to continue to work on. So what is it that we do specifically as we're working through that? Well, I mentioned the career pathways. So clearly, having those pathways that lead to family sustaining wages is critical. And there's two pieces to that I think we need to point out. First off, we need to make sure we have people prepared for the entry-level jobs that immediately provide those family sustaining wages. So if our biotech companies come, those entry-level jobs can immediately provide family sustaining wages. And we have to make sure there's a pathway that can lead from where I am maybe not making those family sustaining wages to that point. An example, because I picked biotech, not only do we need to make sure we're helping attract the companies, but we have to support our legacy companies as well. So if I continue to talk about biotech, Pfizer is another company that's been a great legacy company in Lee County. And many of you know about the program BioWork. If we have a student who can come through BioWork, it's a short-term training, but is a recognized credential, and that allows the student to get an entry-level job, then they can continue on and work on their associate degree and can continue on and complete their baccalaureate degree. They can, with an entry-level job, earn family sustaining wages. So we have an example, many of you have heard me talk about it before. Olympia, who is one of our students, was working 2 full-time jobs. 2 full-time jobs. She came through the BioWork program and was able to secure a job at Pfizer and went from working 2 full-time jobs to working 1 job, making more money than the combined 2 full-time jobs. That's what we can do if we line the career pathway up so that students can get started in a program or started in employment that has family sustaining wages. The other thing you see on this slide is we have necessary jobs that we have to keep in our community that may not have family sustaining wages at the beginning of the career pathway. And so what we need to do is help people think of them as the first step in that career pathway. I'll give you a couple of examples. One we hear about all the time in the news, early childhood care. Early child care is essential. We don't have enough of it. We certainly know those individuals are not paid as they need to be. We don't want to eliminate the programs and not have individuals in early child care, but what we want to do is ensure that we have all of the pieces in place in a career pathway. So that's their start. And then they can move on through an education pathway that leads to family sustaining wages. So entry-level jobs that immediately provide family sustaining wages, and then necessary jobs that are at the beginning. And then not only do we need to provide the career pathways, but the other piece of it that is critically important is we've got to provide the right supports to the students. So if we get those students in those family sustaining wage career pathways, we've got to make sure, and you may want to switch to the next slide there, we've got to make sure that we keep them moving through their pathway by providing the right kind of outreach, engagement, and consistent support. So our companies need employees now, so we need to understand how best to target our adult learners. Olympia is one of those that I mentioned. We have others that we've done that. They can become our community champions and bring other residents into that experience. And then we want to make sure that we engage them throughout their time with us. I'll just finish up by saying, if you looked at Dr. Izod's first slide, she talked about when we talk about family sustaining wages, or I think it was Corey's slide, you got to be able to have be food secure, have medical care, have child care, have housing and transportation. We have to make sure when those individuals are coming to us and transitioning to that family sustaining wage career, that they've got those things taken care of while they're students with us and while they're beginning their career. Our students, our adult students, have lots of priorities. Education is important to them, but they also have other priorities they have to take care of. And so part of what we need to do is provide those right kinds of supports.
Thank you, Lisa. This has been a great discussion. You see here where you can go to get more information if you want to dive deeper into this topic. I hope everyone who's joined us today has enjoyed the discussion as much as I have. Now, what's next? Well, we hope that you'll consider joining us at My Future NC in our efforts to improve educational attainment throughout North Carolina. If you've been intrigued or inspired by what you've heard today and you'd like to hear more, please reach out. You can do that by scanning the QR code in front of you, or you can also visit our website at www.myfuturenc.org or connect with us on social media to learn more. Thank you again to Annie Izod and Lisa Chapman, and thanks to everyone for tuning in. We'll see you again soon.